Imagine waking up completely convinced you are dead. Not sad, not confused, certain. Your heart is still beating. Your lungs still pull in air. But somewhere in your mind, a switch has flipped, and it will not flip back. You look in the mirror and see a corpse looking back. You speak and hear the voice of something that shouldn't be able to speak. You eat, but food tastes like nothing, because the dead don't need to taste. This isn't a scene from a horror film. It's a real, documented condition. And it has a name: Cotard's delusion. So what could possibly convince a fully conscious, otherwise rational brain that it no longer belongs to a living person? The condition was first described in 1880 by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. He was treating a woman he referred to only as Mademoiselle X. She insisted she had no brain, no nerves, no blood. She believed she was already damned, unable to die a second time, and therefore didn't need to eat. Cotard called it le délire de négation, the delusion of negation, a total rejection of one's own existence. For over a century, doctors treated it as a psychiatric curiosity, rare, bizarre, almost unexplainable. Then, in the 2000s, a neuroscientist named Vilayanur Ramachandran offered a theory that changed how researchers understood it. Ramachandran had already spent years studying a related and equally strange condition called Capgras syndrome, where a person becomes convinced that someone close to them, a spouse, a parent, has been replaced by an identical imposter. His theory rested on a simple but unsettling idea. Your brain doesn't just recognize a face, it also generates an emotional response to that face, a subtle rush of familiarity and warmth. Two separate systems working together so seamlessly you never notice the seam. But what happens if that emotional wiring gets damaged while the visual recognition stays intact? You'd still recognize the face. You just wouldn't feel anything looking at it. And your brain, desperate to explain a contradiction it cannot ignore, invents a story. This person looks exactly like my husband, but something is wrong. The only explanation that fits the missing feeling is that he isn't really my husband at all. Ramachandran proposed that Cotard's delusion is the same short circuit, just wired one level deeper. Instead of losing the emotional connection to other people, the person loses the emotional connection to themselves. Every sensation arrives: sight, sound, touch, memory. But none of it carries the emotional signature that says, "This is happening to me, and I am real." So the brain reaches for the only explanation left: I must not be alive. This idea was expanded by a Belgian psychiatrist named Hans de Bruyne, who studied dozens of documented Cotard's cases and found the delusion wasn't a single fixed state. It moves through stages. It often begins with a period of intense unease, a feeling that something about the world has become subtly, unbearably wrong. Then comes the blooming stage, where the delusion fully forms, and the person begins to state, with complete certainty, that they are dead, decaying, or simply do not exist. In the most extreme documented cases, patients have refused food entirely, reasoning that a corpse has no need to eat, which raises an uncomfortable question about the rest of us, the ones who have never doubted for a second that we're alive. Being alive was never something you proved to yourself with logic. It was something you felt, a background hum of ownership over your own body, so constant you never notice it's there, the same way you don't notice you're breathing until someone points it out. Cotard's delusion isn't really about death at all. It's about what happens when that hum goes silent. The senses keep working, the logic keeps working, but the feeling that ties it all together, the feeling that says this body, this voice, this life belongs to me, simply isn't there anymore. And without it, even a beating heart isn't evidence enough. Most people will go their entire lives without that hum ever flickering. You'll wake up tomorrow and simply know you exist, the way you know the sun rose without needing a single memory or fact to prove it. But somewhere in a hospital right now, someone is waking up without that certainty. Their heart is beating, their eyes are open, and they are utterly convinced there is no one left inside to call alive. So tonight, when you feel your own pulse, your own breath, your own weight in the chair beneath you, notice how automatic that certainty feels. That quiet, wordless knowledge that you are here. It isn't proof, it's a feeling. And for a small number of people, that feeling is the one thing the body can lose, while still somehow going on living.